I was strapped into my seat on a red-eye flight from Chicago to London, holding my 8-year-old daughter, Lily, on my lap because takeoff terrified her. Lily has a congenital heart condition. Beneath her shirt, she wears a tiny life-saving defibrillator patch that constantly monitors her heart rhythm and delivers a shock if it ever stops. It's her lifeline. Without it, she has minutes. About 30 minutes into the flight, lights dimmed, most passengers asleep, I felt Lily go slack against me. Her defibrillator started screaming in urgent, piercing beeps that cut to the engine drone. I hit the call button frantically, yelling for help. But before any crew member could reach us, the woman in the seat next to me, mid-40s, perfect blonde bob, designer scarf, full on, I want to speak to manager energy, leaned over, yanked the patch wires off Lily's chest in one violent motion, and shoved the entire device into her purse. She looked me squarely in the eye and hissed, "Your kid's fake medical toy has been beeping and ruining my sleep for the last 20 minutes. I paid for first-class peace and quiet. Lily's lips turned blue in seconds. Cabin lights flicked on, oxygen masks untouched. Passengers roused by my screams as Lily began convulsing in my arms. Flight attendants pushed down the aisle. But this woman, Karen of course, clutched her purse and shouted that it was just a noisy iPad, and no one could touch her property. I lunged her bag. She swung away, spilling hot coffee over a nearby drink cart. People gasped, a man behind us filming, while Lily's heartbeat flatlined on the detached monitor still clipped to her chest. A stark, terrifying line. I'll never forget the cold horror of realizing the stranger had just stolen the only thing keeping my daughter alive 35,000 feet over the Atlantic. And she seemed proud of it. The head flight attendant, Marcus, icy and commanding, grabbed Karen's arm and demanded she return the device. She smirked. "Make me?" That's when the cabin erupted. Passengers shouted. Someone threatened to open the emergency exit if she didn't comply. Lily wasn't breathing. I pumped her chest between the seats, tears blurring my vision, begging her to hang on. Marcus didn't wait. He pinned Karen against the bulkhead, while another attendant pried open her purse. There, buried beneath lipstick and passports, was Lily's defibrillator, switched off. The moment they reattached it, it charged and delivered shock. Lily gasped, color returning to her face, but she remained unconscious, fragile, connected to portable oxygen. The crew scrambled to stabilize her. Karen shrieked that we were assaulting her, threatening lawsuits, claiming the device could be a bomb. Half the cabin wanted to restrain her themselves. Marcus zip-tied her wrists with catering restraints and moved her to the jump seat at the rear, guarding her like a prisoner, while the captain announced over the intercom an emergency diversion to the nearest airport, police awaiting on the tarmac. I cradled Lily, watching her heart monitor finally stabilize, while the woman who almost killed her glared at me like I'd done something wrong. I couldn't comprehend why she hated us so much. I couldn't understand why she'd risk everything over a few annoying beeps. But as the plane banked sharply toward an emergency landing, one thought burned hotter than fear. Whatever her reason, it wouldn't be good enough. Not even close. The aircraft lurched into a steep turn, engines roaring, diverting toward Halifax, the closest airport with full emergency services. Lily was stable but still unconscious, oxygen mask strapped to her tiny face, defibrillator pads blinking green on her chest, while Marcus kept one hand on her pulse and the other on the radio coordinating with the cockpit. I couldn't release her hand, knuckles white, staring at Karen, zip-tied to the rear jump seat, twisting furiously against the plastic restraints. She wouldn't shut up. Even with half the cabin glaring daggers, she kept shouting about assault, false imprisonment, emotional distress. Any legal term she could think of. A businessman finally snapped across the aisle. "Lady, you almost murdered a child over noise." She shot back, venom dripping. That thing was beeping like a smoke alarm. I have a right to a peaceful flight. Gasps ran through the cabin. Someone muttered, "Psycho!" Phones were out, recording every word. Then Karen shifted tactics, lowering her voice into fake sweetness like she was talking to a toddler. "Sweetie," she called toward me, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Maybe if you disciplined your daughter better, she wouldn't need all these dramatic gadgets disturbing paying passengers." I felt my blood boil, ready to explode, but Marcus laid a firm hand on my shoulder and shook his head. Not worth it, not with Lily in my arms. Turbulence hit hard. Seat belt signs blazing, trays rattling, overhead bins groaning. The captain came on. Folks, we're descending rapidly. Expect bumps. Drinks spilled. A baby cried 2 rows ahead, and Karen seized the chaos to start kicking the bulkhead behind her. Bang, bang, bang. She screamed that she was being kidnapped, needed medical attention herself because the restraints were cutting off circulation. A flight attendant tried to calm her. Karen spat in her face. Literal spit. The attendant recoiled, wiped it off, and stepped away, shaking. That was the tipping point for passengers. An older woman in premium economy stood despite the turbulence and shouted, "You're the one who should be cut off from oxygen." A ripple of dark laughter spread, but it died quickly because Lily stirred in my lap, whimpering. I whispered, voice cracking, "Mommy's here." "It's okay." Karen smirked, like she'd scored a point. Marcus radioed the cockpit again, voice low. "We have an unruly passenger in restraints who assaulted a minor and endangered the aircraft. Police confirmed on ground." Karen overheard and went nuclear. "She thrashed?" Jump seat rattling, yelling that Lily's device was a hoax, that my daughter was faking, that I was scamming the airline. Every word felt like a blow. Years of fighting doctors, insurers, and schools to keep Lily alive seemed to unravel with her venom. A man in a marine hoodie 2 rows back stood up, towering in the cramped aisle, and walked straight toward her. The cabin went silent, except for the engines. He stopped in front of Karen, looked down calmly, and said, "Ma'am, one more word, and I swear on my life you'll never speak again." Karen froze, fear finally flashing in her eyes. The Marine stayed put, arms crossed, a silent guardian, until we landed. But Karen wasn't done. As the plane descended, clouds whipping past the windows, she switched to whispering, loud enough for the crew to hear, but soft enough to sound conspiratorial. She told the nearest flight attendant that Lily's device was illegal, that the whole thing was a stunt, and that she had FAA connections. They'd all be arrested. The attendant ignored her, but I caught a flicker of doubt on a young crew member's face, and it cut me like a knife. Then the landing gear dropped, flaps screeching, and Karen pulled her boldest move yet. Big theatrical sobs. "I'm claustrophobic. You're triggering my PTSD. I can't breathe." Mascara streaked, tears flowing, full performance. A few passengers looked sympathetic until she added, "That brat's fake heart attack ruined my vacation." Sympathy vanished. Someone hurled a blanket at her head. We touched down hard, reverse thrusters roaring, emergency vehicles flashing blue and red along the runway. Already visible. Through the windows, emergency vehicles flashed blue and red. The second the plane stopped at the gate, armed Canadian police boarded. For officers, stern, no nonsense, heading straight to the rear. Karen flipped instantly from hysterical victim to icy authority. "Officers, these people attack me unprovoked. I want them charged," she declared. The lead officer didn't flinch. He looked at Marcus, who handed over Lily's recovered defibrillator, still sticky with electrode gel. Then at the dozens of phones capturing everything. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for endangering the life of a child and interfering with flight crew." Karen's face went pale as the zip ties were cut and replaced with steel cuffs. She screamed, but no one listened. Paramedics rushed in for Lily, wheeling a stretcher down the narrow aisle. I carried her myself, refusing to let go, stepping carefully over Karen's designer luggage scattered in the chaos. As I passed her, she locked eyes with me and hissed something I'll never forget. "You have no idea who I really am." I thought it was just another empty threat from an entitled monster. I was wrong. So wrong. We deplaned into a private medical bay at Halifax Airport. Lily lay on a stretcher, paramedics pumping warm oxygen into her lungs while I walked beside her, stroking her hair, whispering promises I wasn't sure I could keep. Police escorted Karen separately, still cuffed, still ranting about lawsuits, but the officers were no longer gentle. One muttered loud enough for me to hear, "Attempted murder charges are being drawn up as we speak, ma'am." I thought that was the end. Justice moving fast, my daughter safe, the monster contained. I was wrong. Hours later, Lily stabilized in the pediatric ICU, monitors beeping softly instead of screaming. I stepped out to get coffee and found 2 detectives waiting in the family lounge. Serious faces, thick folders. They asked if I'd ever met Karen Whitmore before the flight. I said no. They slid a photo across the table. Karen Younger, standing outside a courthouse, holding a sign that read, "Medical fraud kills. Hold parents accountable." My stomach dropped. They explained Karen wasn't just a random entitled passenger. 10 years ago, her own daughter, the same age as Lily, with the same rare heart condition, died mid-flight when the defibrillator malfunctioned. Karen blamed the device manufacturer, the airline, the doctors, everyone. She sued, lost, and spiraled into obsession, convinced pediatric defibrillators were scams, pushed by greedy parents for sympathy and upgrades. She built an online crusade, doxing families, harassing hospitals, even getting one mother's custody revoked with false reports. The detectives showed me her social media history. Thousands of posts calling kids like Lily Munchausen props. Banned from every major platform. She reappeared under new names. Then they showed me her boarding pass. She hadn't sat next to us by chance. She'd paid to switch seats the moment she saw Lily's medical pre-boarding alert. She had targeted us. Planned it. I felt sick. Her rage wasn't random cruelty. It was calculated. In her twisted mind, ripping off the defibrillator was an assault. It was justice. While I was reeling, one detective's radio crackled. Karen had just confessed fully on tape, not out of remorse, but arrogance. She demanded a press conference, claiming she'd exposed the defibrillator racket. She thought the world would thank her. They didn't. By morning, every passenger's phone footage was viral. News outlets ran nonstop. Woman deliberately disconnects child's life-saving device mid-flight. Karen's past post resurfaced, her history exposed. Online communities she'd radicalized turned on her, calling her the monster. Donations poured into Lily's medical fund from strangers who'd watched and cried. The airline upgraded us to private medical transport home. No charge. The Marine from the flight contacted the hospital and started a fundraiser that hit 6 figures in a day. Karen faced Canadian charges and potential U.S. extradition for stalking and harassment. Her name became synonymous with the darkest entitlement. She thought she was a crusader. The world showed her she was a villain. 2 days later, Lily woke up asking for apple juice and her stuffed elephant. I held her so tightly nurses had to remind me to breathe. She looked up and whispered, "Mommy, why was that lady so mad?" I told her the truth, age appropriate. Some people carry heavy hurts inside, baby, and sometimes they throw that hurt at the wrong people. But we're safe now. So many kind strangers stood up for you. She nodded, thought, then smiled. Like superheroes on the plane. Yeah, exactly. Like superheroes. Karen wanted to destroy us to prove her pain was real. Instead, she united an entire flight of strangers, exposed her darkness, and reminded the world that raw, protective, furious love wins every time. Somewhere over the Atlantic, 35,000 feet up, a little girl's heart kept beating, because good people refused to let it stop. I'll never forget that flight. Not the terror, but the triumph.